Hey guys, what's up? It's Law coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Law. And I don't know if I've talked about this before, but it crossed my mind today. And I don't know if I've talked about it, but I'm not really sure why. I felt that it was important to. Whoa. Sorry. I just went because somebody had their turn signal on. So I thought that it would be okay to go. And then they, I think they understood what had happened, but yeah, they had their turn signal on. So I went and then they shut it off. And then they flashed me to go because I think they realized what had happened. So, but yeah, nothing too crazy. um, anyways, yeah. Just a little bit of a thrill there. um, I haven't talked about this before. I don't think, unless I have. Unless I have. But when I text people, I don't have the notifications on. I just check. I will just periodically check. I actually don't think I really have any notifications on for anything. And I think it's interesting because it's entirely possible that my life could be easier if I did. And for some reason, I don't. For some odd reason, I just don't. I usually don't have notifications on. And where am I going with this? I think it's interesting because you start to think about the way I'm treated in general and what I'm able how I'm able to treat other people despite this because it essentially is a handicap. You know, other people they live through notifications. They live through notification. Like if somebody texts them, boom, notification, that's how they know somebody texted them. But that's what I don't like about that system is because notifications can fail. And a lot of times I'll be texting someone and they'll say, "Oh, I didn't get that notification. Oh, I didn't see this notification." That's what people tell me. And I think it's interesting because a lot of these complaints that I have with people about flakiness, about being slow to respond, all these various things, do they have this one thing in common? Kind of. They kind of do. Where I'm actually in a more hindered state and other people aren't. And they're still doing worse at a lot of these basic things that I tend to complain about. So I think it's very interesting to think about that. It actually validates my complaints, but I guess it continues to articulate this revolving idea that I I must just be able to just be more present than most people can be, because it just seems like that's the case. It really does. I'm not certain about the effort. I'm not certain about the effort that other people put into it. But as for me, I'm basically operating at a disadvantage because everybody I usually text that I complain about on here, they actually have their notifications on. So it hasn't really been something that's dawned on me in a while. But again, I do think it's interesting. I have not seen the Ioniq 9 before. I wonder if I've heard of it. The Hyundai Ioniq 9. Just noticed one on the road. It's a green one. I like the styling, I guess, the body shaping. I guess it's consistent with the other Ioniqs. I don't think I've heard of that one. Anyways, yeah, I mean, a lot of these people have even less of an excuse than me. I actually think I have more excuses than a lot of people. If I miss a message, it's because my notifications aren't on. But I check, and I manually check, and I still do better than most people. I think what is likely the case is I might be underestimating just how many people have to have something stimulating them on their screen at all times. I have a feeling that that is the case because in my case, that's usually what I'll do. If I'm on Discord, I don't really have a problem with just leaving Discord open. I don't have to be constantly swiping through some feed in order to be satiated or happy. You know? I don't. It just doesn't. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is a lot of people likely have their notifications on because they're constantly doing something else on their phone and they don't prioritize actual humans. They prioritize media consumption, which I've explained before doesn't really matter. I don't see much value in media consumption because you can do it anytime. There's nothing inherently special about watching a video. The video is going to be there waiting for you 24/7, 365, whereas a person isn't. A person's time is objectively more valuable, and that's it. So there's no reason, like, why would I prioritize having YouTube open in my case, or I guess in other people's case, having a cycling TikTok feed in front of their face? Why would I do that if that's always there? I would have that in the last of my priorities. I have a feeling a lot of people don't follow that, though. They probably are just very messy and very haphazard with how they do things. And then if I approach them with this subject, they're likely just going to be sensitive and offended. And yeah, because they haven't thought of it before. And I think when people are criticized about something and it's something they've never noticed, that can be even more overwhelming. Because at least when you know something, you know it. It's not a shock to you. It's not a surprise. But when somebody criticizes something fresh to you, it's like a fresh wound. It's like a new thing. And if anything, I think they would associate it with me personally, because I assume a human would do that. Whereas, the truth is that if somebody has a negative or a bad behavior, that's objective. That's not my fault for telling them. They should have been told it sooner, you know? I'm also seeing this old Volkswagen Touareg, which I think I do remember seeing that in the past, but I haven't seen one of them in a long time. So it looks kind of interesting because you really just don't see them on the road. I guess you see some of the older sedans, but I think a lot of Volkswagens you just don't see older. So that's kind of interesting. Same with like an old Hyundai, you just don't really see them. See plenty of old Japanese cars, but yeah, it's just interesting seeing that. Two interesting cars, one old, one new. Volkswagen Touareg, if that's even how you pronounce it, and Hyundai Ioniq 9. What were we judging people about? Yeah, so if I just happen to know information and I'm having what is to me a casual conversation, I learned that you never know what another person doesn't know. And if you tell them something that they take offense to, then they could be extra offended, and even worse than that, attach it to your character. It's a misallocation, of course, because it's not my fault at all. Like if I'm talking about something true that they should know and is in their best interest to know, I'm not mean just for accidentally bringing it up, just because to me it's just a conversation. That doesn't make me mean. But that's what people think, and that's how people act. So I'm just thinking and realizing it now, in regards to likely how other people behave, and how, again, if they're on their phone, they're probably just constantly doing things, but the things they're doing are likely not all that important or all that necessary. If I had to imagine, it's just very mindless stimulation. And I guess it's something I didn't really think about, but it's probably the case that younger people and people in general I just think they constantly have junk stimulation in front of their face, and it does distract, tamper, and hinder their social relationships. It does. It's impossible that a brain that is operating like that is going to be able to deal with anything. It's just impossible. Another thing I thought about too that is pretty bad about social media is everybody's seen these videos. I've only seen them pop up on my YouTube occasionally, but honestly don't know how they have that many views because it's just really stupid. Like I don't know. I've probably watched a few of them, but it's usually just a person reacting to or watching a few TikToks or something. But I don't understand how they have that many views because to me it becomes it to me it's very lazy content. Well, especially from my perspective because I'm doing all this and I got nothing. Like I'm driving, I have nothing in front of me and I'm able to generate content without reacting to things. That's why I said if I ever start doing what I want, where I'm in front of a computer and I'm doing a live stream, it's going to be a million times easier because I'm going to have a chat to interact with and videos potentially to interact. Literally, I'm in hard mode on purpose. I am training in hard mode on purpose. I will definitely have more to say and just hopefully when I get to that spot. But yeah, I've seen these videos before, and some of these guys they're getting good views over a cookie cutter formula that just gets way too repetitive. I don't really care about it that much. Now, I think what makes a little more sense is people that try to make it a little more long form. Some people use far less videos that they're reacting to and they talk for far more and it's more constructive or insightful. But other people, it just kind of feels like the videos they're reacting to are just nonsense. And I don't know. So what I was going to say is something that's interesting about the nature of short form content and the speed at which we can be exposed to novel ideas and all different kinds of people that in any other time period or any other point in humanity that is very redundant, but we're just going to go with it. You would have never even heard some of these perspectives, opinions, or mindsets. You just would have never heard them. The problem with modern life is it's so polarized. The median human is just not. I don't know. The median human doesn't really exist. It's more like the bottom 70 or 80% median. The top 10 or 20 shouldn't really be tacked on to the median experience anymore because it's gotten so polarized. That top upper echelon is having it better than they've ever had it. And again, the bulk has been in a constant decline. I'm going to be honest, I completely blanked on what we were talking about because as I was talking about it, my mind started thinking of something else the entire time. So I think that's a wrap. I have absolutely no clue what else. I really need to stop doing that. I think that would be an important thing to have the muscle to be able to not have that happen. But it is something in particular that I struggle with. But I guess a lot of people struggle with it nowadays. I wouldn't say that that's some immune thing, but it is tricky too because you're driving I think that really has a lot to do with it. I feel like it happened less when I was walking, and it would obviously happen much less if I was sitting down. You know, then we'd really be in less territory. And it's also Friday, and I'm pretty tired. All I know is I was talking about something to do with notifications and how I don't use them, and how even though other people do. Ooh, that's not good. Ooh, that's not good. Sorry, my mic thing slipped. I have it wedged between my center console and my chair, this cord cable part of it. So whoa. Yeah, I'm not sure what I was getting at. The median human experience about something. And we were talking about polarity and polarized experiences. And yeah, I don't know. I cannot believe that. I don't get it. I don't get how I do that. Being on hard mode. Oh, oh, hey, it's back. It's coming back to me. It was we're talking about how okay, let me just start from the top cuz that was with short form content, the rate at which we can view basically any person's perspective on anything in fairly high fidelity, might I add, because now I think this is something we kind of forget, but when the internet was first around, there was a much larger quality differential. You had a very small percentage of content creators that actually had professional filming equipment, and their content looked far better than the amateurs or the novices. So at first, there used to be this giant gap and divide between content. I think microphones, too, used to be very clear and very obvious. All these things have gotten so much better. You know, a pretty standard phone is going to have a pretty good camera and a pretty good microphone, let alone a pretty standard high end phone, which, granted, not every person has access to, but a lot of people do. A lot of people do spend money, extra money, to have an extra nice phone. It's pretty common for obvious reasons. So people really have access to like just regular people, super high quality cameras and microphones, and this is not normal. It's very unprecedented. It happens so fast that we didn't really notice it, but the progression of the camera and recording in general is actually pretty remarkable if you look at it. There has really been an invested focus on recording. I guess just because of how revolutionary it is, just as a thing. It's something we get so addicted to and entrenched in. But this has made it so basically anybody can share their thoughts, ideas, and opinions in high fidelity, which comes at a cost. There's certain benefits to this, obviously, although a lot of the decentralization benefits kind of get reduced just due to the fact that censorship is pretty easy to do, and not only is it easy to do, but the powers that be are obviously going to do what they can to maintain that. And they can, oh, sorry, not only is it easy to censor, but it's very difficult to have alternate tech platforms that have an equivalent reach. So you end up with what I'm like, a lot of the benefit gets negated, and then the drawback gets pushed to the front, which is that in the past, when you would consume media, if you consumed a TV show, it was pretty professional. Professional. Why did I say that so weird? If you consumed a TV show or a movie, it was usually professional. Even if it was a lousy TV show or movie, you typically had a director and a whole team of people working on it. So the things you would watch were long form, and there was some kind of coherence or calculation to it. Nowadays, you are getting flooded with who knows what. Nobody even knows. Nobody knows who's coming up with a lot of this stuff. At this point, it's becoming AI generated, a lot of this content. These aren't necessarily professional people. These aren't people who are sane. There's a much larger incentive more than ever to just say crazy things for the point of fame. It's very shallow, the effects. And as a result, there's a lot of people that end up in the spotlight who shouldn't be. And again, it's just awfully disorganized and messy. It's nothing good to give these kinds of people platforms. But it ends up being good enough because it's just about a few seconds of your attention, or it's just about an idea being crazy enough for you to not skip it. It's not about coherence. It's not about being educated. It's about making a video that can just grip your attention. Sometimes it's educational. Sometimes there's something to it, but oftentimes there's not. And so people end up believing things, learning things that are extremely untrue through these short form content platforms, but take it as gospel because they haven't heard it anywhere else. So if they're not around somebody to really educate them, they're just going to believe whatever this random person said. Sorry, I'm tired. And this just causes a lot of problems because, again, before things were now, and again, there is some good that comes with it. I guess that shouldn't be. I shouldn't. I'm kind of brushing it under the rug just for the purpose of explaining my own point. But really, it's true. It's true that it overall it's changed so much, and I kind of wonder how it matters. You know, when you look at the nature of misinformation and how that has negatively impacted us, and cross compare it to how things were before. And I still kind of think this current system is worse because people don't really do anything with the extra information they're given. If the internet really worked, we would have already seen, and there's already the potential to see a major upheaval and improvement in society. It's entirely possible. And we're not seeing it. It's not present at all. So I think the internet it's just totally being misused by people, and people have no idea what they're even doing with what's in front of them. I don't even I think people have no grasp, little to no grasp over what's in front of them. The power that it has, the potential. I think the last thing I wanted to add is also just how messy a lot of socializing is, how certain people are using different apps to socialize. Some people use Discord, other people use Instagram, other people use Snapchat. It's just so messy. None of that should be the case. There should just be some kind of universal app that I know that has its own issues because you don't want a monopoly, but it just makes things stupidly difficult. I don't really know how else to explain my qualm with it because if you there are certain people that only reside on one and not the other. And it just leads to more division. And you never dealt with that before in the same sense. And it could be the case, it's one of those things. It's possible. What if there is a person I would have met and been friends with on Instagram, but since I don't use Instagram, I just use Discord. Like, I just don't meet them just because I'm not on the right platform. To me, it's really annoying. It's almost like if you didn't see certain people who, like, if you only saw, like, you could physically, verbally only see the people that drove the same car brand as you, and everybody else was just invisible. What if you missed out on your best friend because of that? I think communication is extremely important to be as available as possible. And yeah, I think it's kind of frustrating that we have different apps and people have to be juggling between different apps and systems, and each app does things slightly different. And, you know, I think it's all very silly. But I know that it has to be a certain way. I'm well aware. Because of monopolies or whatever. I don't know. I'm tired of talking. I'm sick of this show. No, I'm kind of joking, but I am tired. Hey, it was better than some Fridays because some Fridays, I'm really out of it. So at least it was not like those other Fridays because, yeah, it's no good when it's like that. Now, anyways, it has been schla, and now it's time to buy schla. So, see you, schla.